Welcome to the Dynasty Evaluation Show. This is John McGlynn. I am your host, the host with the most, and I got my guy JT with me today. We are going to talk some with DBro, our guy. So get ready for a show today. We are going to have some awesome fun, and we have a special guest today, which some people may or may not have known was coming on, but guess what? They are here, and we are ready to have a awesome day. So Dynasty Evaluation Show is on the way. We will talk to you guys in a minute.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Welcome, everyone, to the Dynasty Evaluation Show. Our secret's already ruined because Tabby came out a little bit too early, but that's, it is what it is. So, usually we start out the show with a bunch of questions for people, personal stuff, that kind of deal. But, you might as well just unwrap the package here today because the best of the best. I was telling Tabby yesterday, we were on the phone talking, and it kind of led to like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? If you're not busy at like 11, you can jump on the show and talk to DBro. She's like, oh, that would be cool. Yeah, she's like, I got like an hour free. I can jump on there. So, in case nobody knows, Mike Tagliere was one of my neighbors. Me and Mike would come over. I'd go to Mike's house. Tabby would make us pizza or some kind of like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. She'd make some kind of dish, and me and Mike would just stuff our face and watch football. And Dunk would be running around. And then after that, we'd watch football. And then the sequence of events would go on throughout the day. But Tab's I haven't seen. She moved about 2 hours away. It's it's been a journey, for her. So we're going to talk about that today. But I told Tabby yesterday, I've never seen Derek Brown anywhere in my life without a Tag Strong hat on. And it's like there it is again. And it's I went to the combine about a month ago. I saw him there, and he got that Tag Strong hat on, and it's like. I'm like, it would be cool for you to jump on today because I've never seen DBro without like the Tag Strong stuff going on. So, first of all, let's start out here. DBro, tell all the people where they can find you at. What's going on? I mean, most people already know we know where they can find you because fantasy football space. But what's going on with your life? What's going on with you?
Oh man, all things NFL draft, all things crazy, all things of fantasy pros, dude. I just keep it simple. Yeah, I mean, anything I'm producing is going to go through fantasy pros these days.
That's awesome. JT is my co-host with the Mo-host. He's my regular guy, my ride or die, all that kind of stuff. What's going on with you, JT?
Oh, just doing NFL draft stuff, writing on DLF, got a bunch of articles out, anything going on. I'm going to have post-draft, I'll have a bunch of running back stuff. I do all the running back things. So running back stuff, IDP, I'll have my list, all that of rankings, where I think guys are going to go, where I think you should take them, all that stuff coming up. So yeah, check that out. And then on Fantasy and Frames, if you're into IDP, find me on Shoot the Gap over there in Dynasty 365.
Me and JT were on the phone for about 2 hours last night. I was up till about 4 a.m. with my neighbors that don't go home. So it's been a bit of a wake-up morning. They had some coffee. I'm kind of getting to it. My butter rice hat on to cover my hair. But somebody who did do their hair today and looks absolutely beautiful, Tabby Tagliere.
Hi, guys.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And it's such a pleasant surprise. And I was excited that people were excited for me to come. So that's always a match made in heaven. And I'm sorry I ruined it. It was going to be good, but I thought I was going to be in the background, and here I am. You step away, come back.
So I'm like,
I thought I was hearing stuff, man. You popped in, and
his face was like,
I heard McGlynn, and I was like, I got up to get a drink, and I was like, wait, what? What did I miss here?
I know. I was like, wow.
So most people I have a show sheet set up for a lot of my, my stuff going on, but I don't really care if this show goes 45 minutes or an hour about talking about just Tabby and Mike and DBro and all the stuff going on for fantasy pros or a life runner. So I asked Tab, I'm like, hey, you want to jump on? Let's just talk some stuff about your life and what's going on when Mike was with fantasy and with fantasy pros and all the stuff going on. What life was like for you? Like I said, I'm not sure if people understand how much goes into actually content creation, because I'd go by Mike's house on Sunday morning at like 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, something like that. I'd bring my beer over. Every once in a while, Mike would be like, hey, I'm getting rowdy today. I got 4 beers. I'm like, oh, and we'd sit in the basement. Tabby would make food. At 3 o'clock, Mike would be sitting on the couch, and then Mike's TVs would be going on. And then he'd jump in the background and start typing. It's his fucking primer. That thing that took like 72 hours to do. I mean, he would jump on his primer and he'd start typing. We're watching all the red zone and all the rest of the games going on. Why? He wanted everybody to come over, but at the same time, he just couldn't wait to get started on this day. So he'd sit at his desk and start typing about all the games that already happened, all the stats, all the things like that. And then, we just sit in the background. Halftime was just me and Tabby talking while Mike was like doing his primer stuff, And I mean, he would do that all day long, and then he'd have a show Sunday night, and then he'd have like 6 podcasts during the week with writing articles about individual players on top of the primer. It's like, dude, how do you do this stuff? How do you stay that? Tabby, how did you deal with that? Like, how did you have a husband that was just like gone all the time, like completely? Because Mike was the biggest hermit I ever met in my life. Remember when we go to Hooters, and it would take Mike like a month and a half to prepare just to go out to Hooters. He's like, all right, next Thursday or like January 27th at like 5 o'clock, I can go to Hooters. Like, that's how much shit he had planned like in advance. It's crazy. How did you deal with that?
So basically all of that, it prepared me to become Superwoman in training, because I just had to manage it all on the back half, keep the house flowing. And honestly, you're right though. Like, he just had such a drive, and he knew exactly what he needed to get done in the day, when he had to start it, in order to be able to push out all of that content. And there was like not a second could be wasted. So, I think that's probably the biggest thing. And I'm sure you guys are, aware, like the biggest thing you can have in trying to accomplish this is like a supportive environment, an environment that allows you to be able to do those things. And as we all know, life is insane, and I don't even know where the time comes from, but we got to make it work, so being organized and disciplined. But fortunately, even, in the midst of it all, it really helped me in this stage of my life, where now I do have to, I function pretty solo most of the time. I've got great support. But so fortunately, because Mike did his thing, and it helped me develop my muscles, my home muscles of, just really being trying to get it all done. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how I handle it.
Derek, how do you balance fantasy? I mean, I'm not sure that when you got into fantasy football, I'm sure that you never thought that you'd be where you're at right now. How do you balance life with fantasy football now?
Not well. I try. I mean, I say it every time that the conversation comes up and stuff like that. My wife is a freaking superhero. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for everything in between, whether it's supporting me and all how, this roller coaster and everything, like over the last few years of going from being a full-time nurse to full-time writing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't her pushing me forward. Whether it's 2 a.m., handling the kids when I'm on some random ass podcast, and at 12 o'clock at night on a Friday night or something like that, or I got a serious spot at 2 a.m. and she brings the kids to freaking Sonic so the house is quiet or whatever. Like, dude, it's just, I mean, I could go through a laundry list of how I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her support and everything she's done and continues to freaking do. So like for me, I'd love to, get on here and tell you that my life and work balance is wonderful and stuff like that. And that's not really a reflection on Fantasy Pros. That's just the job, and I think anything, you're willing to do and that you're passionate about, a lot of people are going to work, because for me, there's an expectation that I think needs to be upheld in doing the work, and it takes a lot of hours to do it, So for me, the work-life balance, I'm a lot better than I used to be. I'll say that, because up until this last year, and I can thank the higher ups of Fantasy Pros for changing some of the things of how we present the primer now, only because of people's attention spans are a little bit shorter. And then also, honestly, I mean, shoot, I used to talk to Mike all the freaking time about it, man. Like, I mean, he was one of the first people that I texted whenever I even got a full-time offer in this industry. I was like, what does this look like? I mean, and then we went back and forth for a lot of it. And so like the work-life balance looks better now than it used to because of some of the changes we made to the primer. But I mean, I've still lived in a world where like the 3 years before that, it was start writing the primer on Monday as soon as like data, like all the data websites update midday Monday from all the games on Sunday. And I would start writing midday Monday. I still do. And that carries all the way into the wee hours of Thursday night, aka, Friday morning or whatever, or excuse me, Wednesday night, Thursday morning when it comes out. That used to be for the 3 to 4 years that I wrote, that I've written it, was basically me pulling an all-nighter every single Wednesday night, and then we'd have a show on Thursday morning. So I would pull an all-nighter on Wednesday night, finish the primer, turn that in, it's getting edited, and then it gets put out. I had a show on Thursday morning. I would do that show and then go to sleep, like catch a power nap, and then go pick up my kids and then operate as is. But this last season, with some of the changes we made, I was like cutting backflips and sending like all these like happy messages to all my bosses, because I was like, I don't know what it's like to sleep on a Wednesday night during the season. So it's weird for me. It's been a good change though.
JT, like my co-host, who's been me since the first Scott Fishbowl, I asked this guy, I'm like, hey, you want to jump on a podcast with me? I'm starting up Dynasty Evaluation. It was like 3 years ago. I've come a long way since, but I have a long way to go. But this guy, he owns. First of all, he's in like 70 league lineup starting leagues. He's got lineup setting leagues. He's in like 100 campus can leagues. He does dynasty hockey. He does gambling shows. He does all this crazy stuff like that. I don't know how you do all that stuff. And he's on my podcast show probably 3 times a week. That kind of stuff. JT, how do you balance life, like and keep yourself sane with all the stuff you do? Because I couldn't imagine owning 2 restaurants and doing this stuff like on the side too.
It's not been easy, to be honest with you. I've gotten a lot better in the last probably 2 years, ever since COVID hit. I mean, I was working 100 hours plus a week all the time. It was bad. And then I was like, hey, I gotta like cut back. And my son was getting older, and I was like, I want to coach. I want to hang out. I want to be at his games. I want to do all the stuff. So I had to make adjustments. It wasn't easy. Even now, still, I'm like, there's times where I'm just like, I'm going to have to let that go. Like I just can't be at work, and I can't fix that every day. Being in the restaurant industry, anybody that's ever been in the restaurant bar industry knows this is like, it's never ending. There's like no such thing as downtime. It's like the second you think, oh, it's a day off, like everything's fine, something breaks or busts and you got to go in and fix it or call somebody. It just never ends. So just trying to find that balance is like DBro said, man, it's tough. Like it's tough to try to figure out like, how do you manage those things? I mean, I've done the same thing during the football season, up all night, Tuesday night, get home from football practice, start writing at, get the kids to bed, 10 o'clock, start writing at 10:30. I'm up till 3 a.m., 4 a.m., turn around, maybe sleep an hour or two before they get up at 7 and go to school, and then like turn right back around, got meetings, got to be at something. So it's been tough. I've definitely something I've worked on over the years of trying to like, okay, I can't do everything. So I have to pull back some places where I can. So it's just one of those things. I tell people I could literally, my to-do list is a mile long. I could literally be up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year and not get everything done. That's just the way it is.
So he writes about 30 articles a week for DL. He does rankings on DLF. He does everything. It's I don't know how he finds life, time to be alive.
So just trying to find that difference is my girlfriend's daughter just started travel volleyball. So we spent, 2 days, 45 minutes away, 8 hours at a volleyball tournament this weekend. So I was like, okay, like I really need to write an article, but I'm like, I need to sleep. Like I've been at this volleyball tournament forever. So it's just trying to find those differences and just having to tell people like, I can't do it. I can't be there on time. Like I need you to push my article. like a day or 2 days, like just speaking up and being like, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm like toasted. And like, you just got to be able to do that. And same thing with employees. Like, I need you to help me. I can't be there every second of every day. So it's a toughie. I think as we get older, we grow and learn those things, especially when you got kids trying to learn and be like, hey, I got to be there for them. I can't work every second of every day because that's not fair to them. So trying to find that balance is tough for everybody, I think. But but hopefully as we get older, we get wiser and we try to pull that balance, even though it's never balanced. You try to make it a little more equal if you can.
Tabby, what's going on? What's going on in the world? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Nope. I'm not used to doing podcasts, so I just interrupt. So just don't mind me.
No, that's what I do for a living. I
That's all you, Tabby.
Awesome. What's going on in the world these days, Tabby, with you? Because Mike would hand you the laptop and you start punching in stuff even in the middle of the Thursday night games. I mean, you were part of Mike's fantasy journey just as much as he was. It seemed like, because you'd be doing this, you'd have to have the whole motherhood role, the whole like Mike would be down in the basement doing work, and you were like Superwoman. Like, you'd make the food, you'd punch in all the the stuff in the Google Sheets or the Excel spreadsheets. You do all that stuff. What's life like nowadays for you?
Oh man, what's funny is because listening to all of you guys, like in your crazy lives, it's like, you know what, that is kind of life though, right? If we're trying to pursue something that we're trying, it's like whether it's a restaurant, whether it's football, whether it's what I'm doing now, which I'll talk about. Like, that's the thing, is like we're filling it in with something and trying to find that balance and whatever it is that we're doing. And yeah, for Mike, entering the stats, I felt so important, like I'm like, yay, I get to be part of this, and more than just cleaning the house or, being supportive in that way. But it is funny because I do have a couple memories where, I mean, he's so, statistically oriented, and he just knew numbers, but it was like mindless work. Like, I would just start entering the stats from, whatever took place in the day. And I remember I would get like fat finger syndrome, and I would enter something, and later on he'd be looking at it, be like, gee, what'd you do here? Like, there's no way this person had 1,000 yards today, and I'm like, my bad. But it was, so now I actually, I'm really interested. I'm thinking big picture. What do I want life to look like? And like Derek, like, I'm a nurse. I'm fortunate that I do get to work from home. But I decided, like, I want to create something that's like long lasting, something that I can pass on to the kids. So I decided to venture into the rental property business. So I've got 3 houses now, and I'm really excited about that. Still working full time. But even beyond that, like, I would like to start my Positivity Tabby YouTube channel again. I feel like life is, Tabby talks.
Yep.
Thank you, Jamie. So yeah, I really, like, I'm feeling really called and inspired, and, it's been almost 4 years since he passed. And so it's like things have just come more full circle. I'm, see things differently and looking at life and learning the lessons from our life together and our time together. And, if there's anything that definitely inspired me about Mike, was just that he was passionate. So I'm like, hey, I need to find my passion too. And I'm so thankful because I've had just really great support. My family, I do have a boyfriend. He's wonderful. Everybody has come together to just help support and lift me up and make this new dream a possibility. Rehabbing houses and renting them out.
That was so funny, Ted, because like, it was, Mike was the biggest like introvert. Like, he didn't like going out. He was like a in-house person, but when he did, when he got into cars and stuff like that, he got, that was his, like, he tried doing golf for a little bit, and he tried, we'd go golfing, and I was absolutely terrible. I'm going golfing with Pat Fitzmaurice next Friday. But like, Mike would go out golfing, and like, he got serious. If he did anything, it was 100%. Like, I wasn't writing, so I'm going to go golfing now. And he had to have the best clubs and get a guy to train him and all this stuff. And then he got into cars, which was his real passion, And it was cool seeing him do all that stuff, But I would see. Then he moved from this area, from Plainfield. He found his dream house in Tennessee with 100 acres around him, so nobody had to talk to him. He could sit in his house and just look out his back porch and just be himself, that kind of. If Mike was in with comfortable people that he was comfortable with, he was the best dude in the world. He could talk to you. He's super sociable. But if you brought him outside, like in the world of like actual people, like he would like shell up, like get like super nervous. It was crazy how when you know somebody who doesn't talk to nobody else, but they're your friend, and like they're like super introverted about everything. You know, like it was so cool. But and then like when you moved back to Illinois, I saw you like on ladders putting up insulation and like putting up drywall in these houses. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? Like, how? And you started your own rental property stuff. And how's that going?
It's going awesome. I've learned so much. Like, I've always liked, been mechanically inclined. I've always liked to just, work on cars and things like that. And so this was just like a whole new world of things to do and things to learn. And I learned how to do drywall, not well, but I do it. But I'm not trying to do drywall for the rest of my life, electrical, like hanging ceiling fans. Just any demo. Oh my gosh, demo. That's a great therapy for sure. But
work out some demons during the demo days, right?
Oh yeah. Bats. There's real bats in my house, and those are terrifying. I was like, I'm not prepared for this. And again, thankfully, I've had excellent support. And
you had bats in your house?
Yes, there was like an infestation. And then when I found out about it, you can't do anything about it because of the time of year it was. Like it was insane. But we're bat free now, I think. I'm pretty sure. So that's positive. But yeah, no, I've learned a whole lot. And I really enjoy it. And physical labor is great. I definitely don't know if I want to take on a project of that magnitude because it was rather large, but it's done. It took like 2 years. And again, I definitely couldn't have done it on my own. I had amazing support. My brothers, family. I mean, everyone has just been really awesome. And it was my vision, but everyone helped to build it and put it together, and that's the biggest thing. And so important, but I think it's like when somebody has a vision and they start to talk and verbalize that with the people that they love and people that love them, everyone can get on board, everyone can believe, and then you that support just starts to come in ways that you wouldn't have thought it was going to happen, so
yeah.
I want to just create a big old rental property, Airbnbs, all that kind of stuff. I'd love to do themed Airbnbs. I think that would be so fun. I'd love to get a place in Nashville eventually, Chicago for sure. And so I've got big plans, big dreams, and a huge support system, and that's all you could really ask for. So
it's been a few sleeps, but correct me if I'm wrong, Tabby. That's a lot easier than didn't you work NICU? Am I wrong?
I was in labor and delivery. Yeah.
It was L&D. Okay. Because Tags and I used to talk, because that was another common thread, like with you being in nursing and myself too. And I was in pediatrics for 15 years. And we used to go back and forth of just what it's like being the significant other of somebody that works in the medical profession, and the lovely stories that you come home with, and whether people want to hear them. And some of those you don't tell around the dinner table, and some you do. So yeah, no, I mean,
it's funny. My wife works at Cook County Jail in Chicago, and it's like it's probably one of the worst jails in all of America to work in. And she comes home, she's like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's like, all right.
Kelly's tough. Like she didn't take no crap from anybody. So she's the perfect person for her role there. And I do remember, Derek, when you had reached out to Mike about, bridging the gap, kind of making that way over. And I remember him telling me like, yeah, he's a nurse full time, blah, 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 blah. So I remember all of that. And I mean, so you do it full time.
I still got my license current. I'm not practicing now, but it's still technically yes, but no.
Technically yes. Oh, trust me, I don't think I'll ever let my license go.
Same. I mean, at this point, we're too old to go back and take all those standardized tests. I mean, good Lord, I couldn't even do that nowadays. So I keep it up because I know if I had to go actually take the test, I'd be lost.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah. My mom was a nurse, so I don't know how, she worked 12-hour midnight shifts, and then try to get up and make dinner and go back to work and stuff. I don't know how people in the medical profession do their thing. It's not, and the personal level on top of the the knowledge level of having to deal with people and everything. I don't know how people do that kind of stuff. I know you work from home now, Tabby, and it's probably a little bit different, but I mean, it's in reality, it's you still have an attachment to all, everything you do. So I mean,
For
that's
sure.
crazy.
No, it's
What is
definitely
what do you do? Like I was talking before about Mike's hobbies, how he changed them all the time. Like DBro, what do you do like in your free time to kind of like get rid of stress and kind of like because I mean I get like how do you call it like writer's block or I don't even write. I just do my podcast stuff. But like every once in a while I'm just like I gotta walk away. I gotta go for a walk. I gotta do something. Watch. I was out last night till like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning with my neighbors. Watching the championship game. That's all I had to do today was get up and do a podcast. Do this show. How do you get up with like a deadline of like having to write and having to do this and how to, I don't know how do you like keep going? How does that mentally not like bear on you? That kind of stuff.
I think honestly, just because it's a love / borderline obsession. I mean, the more and more I got into doing it and stuff like that. I mean, even when I was still like in nursing and stuff, I remember one of the last nursing jobs that I had, like before I did like a lot of the telehealth stuff at home. I mean, dude, there was times where I was taking like my lunch breaks and I'm like, instead of going to eat lunch, I'm either sitting in the cafeteria over in a corner where nobody would bother me or see me. And I'm writing an article that I had to do the next day, or I was doing a radio hit or a podcast on my phone, walking around the parking lot, and then I'd walk back into work, and that's how I'd spend my lunch breaks. But nowadays, I mean, just trying to find the balance between work and life and stuff. I mean, the writing stuff is, I'm not saying it's easy, but like I used to have, when I first started writing, like you'd sit down and I used to hate writing intros. I still don't love writing intros, but like getting started with that. But like the rest of it, I sit down and you just go, you know what I mean? Because you've done it enough times and it's just muscle memory. But like, as far as like the things outside of the job and stuff, it's over this last year. And I think like, we all lived through lockdown and things like that. I think like trying to get my health and trying to get like some kind of like median of mental stability and health and finding a balance that's healthy for me and sustainable. It's really been just, I don't want to sound like an infomercial or something like that, but it's really been just any free time that I have, I'm most likely at the gym. I'm most likely at the gym with my oldest son. He's basically my workout partner now. So we go like 4 to 5 days a week and stuff like that. And it's really, talking about working out demons and things like that. It's always been something that's always been very important to me. But the older I've gotten, the more that I know that like that's one of those kind of pillar things for me. If I like in the middle of the season when I got my head down and it's like 70 hours a week and I'm like, okay, when do I sleep or when do I do things like that? Over the last year, I found more of striking a balance between trying to keep myself instead of like, oh, it's the season. It's time to put on 20 pounds. Yay. Now it's like, trying to force myself, even though I've got like deadlines hanging over me for this, and this, trying to force myself to peel away for an hour and go do something for myself and just disconnect, and whether it's the gym or honestly, common threads here, but like music. Some people write, some people love poetry, some people love, pick whatever lane of creative arts that's yours, that's cool. That's all for everybody. Like for me, it's music. So, I mean, whether I'm working out or I'm writing, I'm never writing without music on. So one of those two things, trying to disconnect and, unplug for a bit.
My oldest kid is already 20. He'll be 29 this year. And I have a 24-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 20-year-old that's a sophomore in college. So I was always like at the field. I worked a ton of hours. I was an electrician. I'm a local 309 operating engineer in Chicago now. But like I was a head coach of all my kids' teams. Now I finally have time to start doing like fantasy football, which I'd never had time to do before. Minus like just setting lineups. I remember being on halftime of my kids' games on like Sunday afternoon, like sneaking away after I gave the speech and set my lineups on the phone while eating oranges and stuff like that. Like JT, you coach football too. You do all the stuff. You went to school for journalism. You write about 1,000 articles a day. Like, I mean, you do rankings for DLF. You write, you have a journalism background. How do you find time to balance your family and still write 100 articles a week on top of doing all the podcasts and gambling shows and all that kind of stuff?
My girlfriend's pretty nice about it. Like, to be honest with you, I sometimes I look at it, I'm like, man, I probably do way too much stuff. But she's like nice about, like, she likes sports, so she'll sit down and watch games with me. I'm like, DBro, I'm big into music. is a huge thing. So me and her go to a lot of concerts. So that helps out some. I'm like, hey, I bought us tickets to a concert like next week. So then she's like, okay, like gives her a little time. I can stay off my back about trying to do everything else because we'll go do stuff. But I'm always listening to music. I wrote in college, always terrible at music as far as like actually like playing guitar, singing, that kind of thing. But I always wrote lyrics, did things like that. So always been big into music and that kind of thing. But trying to find those things, like I don't have as much time as other people, but I try to do when I do have time, make sure I'm doing something like special, trying to take the kids somewhere, trying to do something with them. Same thing with my girlfriend, trying to go to a concert, find like something that's happening that year and try to schedule stuff in advance so that we have something to look forward to. So it's like maybe on a daily basis, not doing as well as other people sometimes on those things, but trying to make sure that, we have something to look forward to and are spending, some time together. Because that's, John, you don't want to get to where you're not spending any time together for a long, long time. That's always bad for any relationship. So like trying to make sure that you're carving out time and that is, good time. And I've really in the last year tried to be like, I got to get off my phone. So like, I'm terrible. I'm one of those people. I'm like, I'm on Twitter or I'm answering emails or I'm like looking at this. Me, John, I'm like in a draft at all the times. Like yesterday, I was like supposed to be somewhere. I'm like, hold on, it's my turn. I got to pick. And like, it's like, I'm trying to like be better about that. Like, okay, like sometimes you just got to put the phone away, turn it off for a little bit and like, let them know that you're actually there and hanging out and present. So that's something I'm trying to be better at.
JT was in a draft every day. It's from the day after the Super Bowl until actually the fantasy football season started last year. Like there was not one day he was going to have at least one draft, if not two drafts, that kind of stuff like that. But Fizzle, DBro always cooking, keep hustling. And then good to see and hear the hard work being put in behind the scenes. The work no one else enjoys always counts. I mean, stuff like that. Nobody sees. We talked about before how long it takes to write an article. Like I don't write. If I did write, it takes me about 17 hours to write like one 5-paragraph article. And I hate it. I can't stand it. Some people love writing. They hate podcasting. They hate doing stuff like that. Like Tabby, you're going to get into like this. You were talking about before about how you talked yesterday about how you want to get back into YouTubing or like podcasting about Tabby Talks. What does Tabby Talks mean to you? What did it mean to you before? And why do you want to kind of rekindle that Tabby Talk stuff?
Oh, okay. No, that's it. It's a multitude of things. Where it started was just about like spreading positivity. I tended to, the truth is Mike did have, he had bad days. His vision wasn't always clear. He had doubts and he felt discouraged. And, there were a lot of times over the years where, it didn't seem like anything was going to happen. It didn't seem like he would come to those crossroads of why am I doing this, and what is the motivation behind this? And, I've always had this like optimism where, I just tapped in and like, hey, you know what, keep going. I see this, blah, 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 blah. Like keep pushing. It's going to work out. Believe in yourself, blah, blah, blah. So Tabby Talks was originally just about like trying to spread positivity. I seem to do it pretty well for my friends and my family. So why not just do it for the whole world? And, but the truth is during that time, like I naturally had this confidence of like, I'm just going to do it, no gain. Social media and like, I kind of felt myself getting drawn into like likes and clicks and comments. And I'm like, oh, I don't like how this feels. Like now it's like not so authentic. It's not just naturally, inspired. And also I always had this deep fear. What if somebody came to me and said, well, how are you going to spin my positive situation on my partner dying or, getting a terrible like cancer diagnosis or something like that. And I never felt equipped for that. And I, not that I am, but I am, and so it's like, at least I can now take my pain and my lessons and potentially help somebody. I don't know if I will, but I really, I'd like to do that. So yeah, spreading positivity, but also I realized how powerful we are just like as human beings. Like when you put your mind to something, the things you say, the things you believe about your life, about your family, about where you could go, those things are so important. And I know that while your support system outside of you is so valuable and essential to your success, it starts with your internal dialogue. You know, it's that belief in yourself. It's holding that vision for yourself. It's believing that what you have to say, somebody else wants to hear, even when you feel like there's no way. Why would what I'm doing be so important? I mean, when I think about where fantasy football started to where it became, there was no job like that. You know, you got to the people who the hosts on ESPN, yeah, they existed, but they talked about real football, and that was the dynamic. And you know, I believe it was like the passion, and you can call it what it is, but I love the uh kind of the woo-woo stuff behind it, but like it was everybody's like collective love for fantasy football that brought it into mainstream. It wasn't something that existed, but all our love, all of our attention that we were getting literally created and carved out an industry, which is just exploding. And just when you think it can't get any bigger, it does. And so I think that I really just want to try, and that's why I'm kind of like in the piecing together phase of exactly what I want my show to look like, because it includes all of those components. Yes, it's going to include life aspects, but it's bigger than that. It's more about like just this human element of our minds, our support systems, and how things come to us. So that's it. That's my
I'm glad that you said like that how much you enjoy doing it, because I think when all of us get started, we're kind of like how many people saw my stuff, how many people looked at it. And Twitter's like kind of a dead zone now. You look on there, like I spend the stupidest thing is I'll spend like 10 hours coming up with a show sheet and all these awesome questions and stuff like that. And I'll go on there and I'll have like 32 likes. And I'm like, what the shit? And then I'll write something stupid like, oh, you know, like that was a great shot. And all of a sudden I got like 5,000 retweets. I'm like, what the hell? How does this happen? Like, you know, it's the stupidest thing in the world. Like, but like, DBro, how do you enjoy Tabby, you're getting to the point now where you have a vision of like what you're going to be doing when you start your podcast again. But like I remember having our home league fantasy football draft in my backyard, and Mike was on the clock, and somebody had just picked Andrew Luck, and then he retired, and I'm like, hey Mike, did you see that? Andrew Luck just retired. He goes, shut up, it's got to be some joke or whatever. And then he had to stop drafting and like write articles about Andrew Luck, you know, doing it. Like, at what point in time does like fantasy football not become fun anymore, and it becomes like a job where you can't? I could just enjoy fantasy football. Here, when that happened, I'm sitting back drinking beers, talking to everybody else, and Mike's in the corner writing this article. Like, he had to do that for work. Like, when does it become like, man, it's not even fun anymore? Like, do you still have fun like doing Dynasty, like setting lineup leagues and stuff like that?
Yeah, I still have fun with it. I think like with all of it, I mean, obviously, just time and the allocation of time, you know, because it's the finite resource that we don't get any more of. So trying to be more concentrated and deliberate with how I'm spending my time, like leagues and all that kind of stuff. I've taken a big step back with that. Like it used to be in the teens, 20s, 30s, whatever. And now it's like I've got like I think 5 or 6, because there's only so many hours in the day, and you know, a large portion of my every week goes towards football and things like that. So it's like, I mean, I still love doing it, but there are times where, you know, I'm a lot better at it now than I ever have been before, about drawing lines in the sand, about being like, look, this is family time. This is time I'm doing this. This is time for the gym and things like that. I mean, I used to be so terrible about it. Like I'd go to the gym and be like on my phone the whole time. And it's like, why did I even come here? You know? And so I still enjoy it, but I think like to still enjoy it, I do need to have those breaks away from it. Like you can't live, eat, breathe, sleep it 24/7, 365. Like there has to be other things. Like it can be a large portion of who I am, but it can't be everything. It can't be the only thing that you define yourself based off of, the only thing that you do every waking moment, you know? So again, it's just reconnecting, finding a balance, because that's how you maintain that joy of doing it. Because if not, you're just going to burn yourself out. And I mean, that's not even getting into things Tabby brought up. Like I still have all those demons. I still have imposter syndrome. I still have a horrible inner voice that tells me, why should anybody give a shit about what you say? Why should anybody give a shit about what you do? You know, I'm not maybe everybody's favorite flavor of coffee, tea, whatever, you know what I mean? However the saying goes, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just got to be me, and whether you like it or not, that's cool. It's all good. I mean, the only thing you can be in all of this stuff, and you can lose yourself in all of this really easily, whether it's chasing social media stuff, whether it's caring so much about what people say on social media and stuff like that, which at this point in my life, like, I don't really give a shit what people say about me on social media. Like, legitimately, like, one of the things, like, of having to put up like guardrails to keep like my sanity in this social media age and stuff, like, most of the tweets, and I'll go ahead and apologize to people, like, when I put out stuff on social media, I'll mute conversations because I don't, like, all the replies and all the nastiness, especially in today's world, that people, like, I think it's honestly like them exercising some of the demons in their own lives. Like, I can't, I'm not happy about this, or I can't control this, so I'm going to get on a social media site and I'm going to sit there and blast somebody about whatever. It's like, you can also make the conscious decision to just not let that affect you, not intake that. Like, say, like, look, like, you have a right to your own opinion. I have a right to my own opinion, and we can disagree, and I don't have to sit here and take the flack. You know what I mean? Like, that's, like, honestly how I keep, loving what I'm doing and stuff like that. 'Cause it can get hard. There's been a lot of times where I'm really hard on myself. Like, whether that's, my wife having to build me back up, whether it's my colleagues having to build me back up and be like, no, like, because when you put so much time and effort and energy and it's so encompassing of what your daily routine looks like, hell, your life, your week, your month, your years, like, it matters. And if it didn't matter, you wouldn't be spending all that time doing it. But at the end of the day, it's like, how much that means to you. So, like, when somebody shits on it, you're like, okay, that hurts.
Right.
But you also got to put it in context. What people say on the internet is not what people usually will say to your face in real life. So why am I going to listen to things that people wouldn't even say if they were standing in front of me?
Tabby, that's another question. Like, when you inevitably start up Tabby tags again, like, some people write comments and you don't have somebody's, you don't know them, you don't know where they're coming from, their feelings or this and that. Some people, like, say things and they might mean something positive by it, but you read it and you're like, oh, what the hell does this person mean? Or like, when you jump back into, like, the Tabby Talks, which we know it's all coming. We're waiting for it. Tabby Talks was awesome, but when it comes back again, like, how can you take a personal show like that and like, not have to, like, analyze everybody's comments, like, and try to construe them into being, I know you're one of the most, if not the most positive person I've ever met in my entire life. But at some point in time, there's negativity that just is inevitable with, like, these shows or these things like that. How do you plan on, like taking all the negative comments about, the things that might come with your show and spinning it into something like that is positive and you can grow off and be part of, how do you plan on doing that?
Yeah. So, a couple things I wanted to mention on this is Mike struggled with that huge too. Like, when Twitter was huge and he really had, like, massive growth, that massive positive came with a massive uptick in negative feedback too, so it was hand in hand. And I think that is just reflective of the balance of life, right? You take the good with the bad. But also, I think it's just about that perspective of, for me, everybody can take the thrones that are thrown at you and get pummeled by them and essentially get weighted down by those, or you can use them to place as your stepping stones to build you up. And I think that's the biggest thing is, regardless if those negative comments are coming in or however anybody wants to say, I think your perspective, like, I could be in a bad mood and read something completely wrong because of my own lens that I'm filtering up the world. So it's like really being aware of, what am I thinking, feeling in this moment, but also understanding that if people are flooding into your, at the very worst case scenario, people are saying bad things, negative things. Now you're getting into the algorithm, so now this is more views. So it is literally, it's either the stones that are going to cover you, or they're going to be the stones that you use to step on to build yourself up, and I think it's just being mindful and remembering that. And whatever it is for you to naturally know that, that's how you have to see it. Like, everybody has a bad day. People are just people. There's bots. There's people who just enjoy, saying negative things. And, for them, you just wish them well and go on and turn the other way, lean in towards the stuff. But also, I think sometimes people, even negatively, can offer some good criticism, something that I might not have been able to see in the positivity. So if I can use it constructively, again, it's just another stepping stone, a way to build myself up. And I'll probably ignore them for the most part, but I'll also probably just, take into consideration like, oh, maybe I can use this to make myself better.
I'm so happy to hear that you're going to bring that back. I mean, not like you have to, but like, I think like, especially right now in the world, any positivity and I think encouraging voices, it's definitely needed.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited for sure.
I don't get like the whole, I remember Mike was like, I don't even think you can mute conversations on Twitter back in the day. And Mike was like, I want to respond to everybody. And I'm like, how do you say, I mean, it was a struggle for Mike to go, like, we'd go on like a date night and Mike would like, okay, I'm not going to be on my phone for the entire hour we're going out to eat. I'm like, okay. Like sometimes I just forget my phone at home and I go to work. Like it's not that big of a deal. But like for him, it was so important to like respond to everybody, whether it be negative or positive, whatever. He just wanted to like make sure that the people who were like watching his content or paying for the Fantasy Pro subscription or whatever it was, like they were in he interacted with them to make them feel like he was part of like their life too. And it's like, I don't know how you would do that. Like, how do you? Because I get like I just put some stupid thing like an April Fool's joke on TikTok, and I got like 11,000 views and something else, whatever. And I'm trying to like all their comments, and it's like one of my biggest like stupid posts I've ever done. It was an April Fool's joke, but Mike would do that every day. He had really important content that meant a lot to people, and they'd all be like, "Well, I don't think he's going to be running back 7. He might be running back 9." Like, who the hell gives a shit if he's running back 9 or 7? Like, how do you? And Mike would be like, he might be because of this and that. And he'd actually respond to this stuff. And I'm like, dude, how do you find time to respond to 800,602 million messages every day? Like, how do you find that time? Like, how do you like Tabs? How do you plan on like balancing that? Like, awesome, because your aura is so positive. Like, I don't, not that it's going to like bring you down or anything like that, but like, how can you like plan on like keeping everything positive by responding to everybody on these things? Like that's to me, that's my biggest struggle. It's like trying to be like human instead of like a raging lunatic when I'm trying to respond to stuff.
Right. I think and I will say like one of the reasons that Mike did interact with everybody is because when he was getting started and he was on his way up, he loved it when the people he loved in the industry responded to him. So he became what he loved best in the analysts that he saw. That was one of the reasons. And, that's something even to be said, what Derek was saying earlier and JT was talking about is, trying to, you might have been doing things one way, writing thousands of articles in the beginning, but once you get to places like, once you've built yourself up and I don't know, I feel like I can make a tool analogy. I'm not sure I'll get it right, but like, eventually I learned how to use a drill, like I first started off with like a screwdriver and then it's like, okay, so it took me way longer, once my efficiency got better, my confidence, and I realized, hey, I don't have to use that tool anymore. I can start doing things this way. And you do have to let things fall by the wayside because there was a time and a place, it's like climbing a ladder. Like you start at the bottom and there's a time and a place where what you're doing is exactly what was needed, but you have to evolve, And so, yeah, he was trying to find that balance, towards the end, I would say he did get to a better place of being able to mute people and step away. But there was a time, but again, he was paving a path. This has been the first time he had all this animosity coming at him, and in anything coming at him. So just learning how to navigate that was interesting. But I anticipate kind of just doing it in the same way. I feel like I'm glad that I've gotten to be behind the scenes and watch him go through it because I did learn just from, observation. I got to see what worked for him, what didn't. And, it's always easier to see things from a more objective place on the outside looking in. Oh, you could do this, you could do that. In the moment, totally different. But yeah, I would say the biggest thing will just be understanding that if people aren't where I'm at, I can't expect to. All I can do is reach out a hand, and if they take it, great. But at the end of the day, some people just want to be angry, and that's okay. That's their choice. Right. We need angry people because I need to come along and make them happier.
Misery loves company is kind of how that says. Yeah, right.
Yeah. John, this is something I deal with, constantly in the restaurant industry in my business. Like I have to look at things and like, okay, I do have X amount of customers and people that come in every day. Are they like online leaving me glowing 5-star reviews? No, because they're enjoying the place. So I've got to realize like sometimes when I get those bad reviews or comments, I got to realize the same thing. Like Tabby said, it's like some people are just upset. They're just angry and they want to take it out on someone. And so I've got to realize, okay, is that constructive criticism or is it someone just being angry? And then I'm like, okay, if it's constructive criticism, great. I need to take that in. I respond to those people. If someone's just being angry, I'm like, okay, I just need to ignore that because it does beat you down sometimes. I'm like, man, I'm just working my balls off trying to run this restaurant and people are just trashing my business and trashing me. And I'm like, but you got to realize like sometimes that's the way. And I have to talk to my managers and people like that all the time. I'm like, you have to feel out, is this person like, do they have a legitimate gripe about something that we messed up? Okay, great. We need to fix that, do what we can to make it right. Or is it someone who's like, my boss yelled at me all day and my wife was on my ass and now I'm coming in and I'm just pissed and I want to yell at somebody and like that person is just yelling at you and you're like, okay, we just got to move that person along as soon as we can. Like there's nothing we can do to fix it for them. They're going to be angry whether I take $100 out of my pocket and just give it to them. They're still going to be pissed. They're still going to give me a 1-star review because that's just where they're at. And so you got to find that differences. And I know, John, me and you have talked about this, especially on Twitter, social media. Like, is someone commenting something and like we can have a good discourse back and forth? Or is someone just angry and like, no matter what I say, they're just going to be like, F you. And you're like, okay, I need to not respond to that person and like move on and just block it out. Cause I find myself like those things sit in my brain and I'm like, oh no, I get all angry and I'm like, oh, I just want to say something to that person. I'm like, okay, don't, just delete it. Don't say anything. Like it's not going to solve any problems. So, I have no problem with the back and forth discourse with somebody who doesn't agree with me, but I've tried to find my way into, is this person want to have a legitimate conversation back and forth? If they do, okay, great. You don't have to agree with me, but I will totally engage you. But if they're just a person that's going to be angry and hateful, then like, okay, you just got to like, don't respond.
Yeah.
Delete that response and just move on. And so that's something I've tried to be better back because there were times I'm telling you, like my girlfriend would be like, do not respond to that person because I'll get like a review online. I'm like, oh, she's like, don't say anything. Like it's just it's not gonna be anything better.
You can't paying customers that are sitting at the bar either. That's you have to deal with them face to face with it. We in the on the Twitter universe or whatever it is, we could be like, okay, I could walk away from this conversation or mute that person or block them, whatever. You're stuck with paying customers in your face telling you you're an asshole, that kind of stuff. So I don't know how you do that too, or how you put that together. But
and like I said, that's just like trying to over the years just learning like, okay, is this person have a legitimate gripe that I can fix, or is it something that they're just angry? And then like separating those things out and then realizing, okay, they're just angry. They're in a bad place on whatever's going on in their life. Like I can't hold on to that because I used to. I would hold on to it and it would make me miserable. And I'm like, I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be miserable. I'm like, no, I don't want to be miserable around my kids. Like I gotta let that stuff go sometimes.
Tabby, speaking of kids, Maggie, my daughter Maggie was the babysitter when Mike and Tabby would go out on their dates once every 3 months. So. And Maggie showed me a bunch of pictures yesterday. Like the first, one was with Dunk, Jonathan. Mike always called him Dunk. That was kind of like so. Dunk is until he's 87 years old. I'm going to call him Dunk. It is what it is. That's the nickname for him. But like I showed a picture of Maggie's guinea pig was on his chest, and like the thing was like this big. I'm like, oh, Dunk's in second grade now. How big is this dude?
He is. I mean, he's probably up to here on me now, but he's really he's funny. He's so passionate and he gets super hyper focused on things, and his math skills are pretty off the chain, if I do say so myself. I'm pretty excited for him for that. But he's got his little purple hair now. He's seen some I don't let him watch it, but Squid Games. There's Thanos, which I've never watched Squid Games.
Same. Never watched it.
Well, there's a character who has purple hair, so Jonathan had to have purple hair. So he's got his little purple on the top here, but he's doing good. He's getting big. And you know what? Something that is a great thing to think about in dealing with these people that are negative. Something I've told Alyssa, which is Mike's oldest daughter. She's 22 now, and but. So I told her when she was little, I'd say when she was like in 6th grade, she was having a hard time. And I said, you're 12 years old. if kindergarten came at you and told you were wrong about something, would you get upset about that? No, they're a kindergartner, right? And so same thing with Jonathan. Like, I just like you try to put, people aren't on your level. You wouldn't take advice from them. So even listen to them any longer than you have is, not necessary. So if you kind of look at people like they're just not on your level, so they're not even worth your time and your energy.
How much of Mike do you see in Jonathan, like when he does like schoolwork, or when he's like, or you were telling a story yesterday about him like organizing or coming up with like random questions, like how does that like how much does he bring out of, how much of Mike is he, the good or the bad? Like I'm sure like with my wife every once in a while you want to be like, shut up, like how much does he like make you happy, like oh my god, and how much does he like to bring out like, oh, I don't like that Mike side, like how does that feel?
Oh my gosh, it's really wild. I mean, facial expressions, like when he's focusing on something, just like some of his eye, like the way his facial features are. But he is just like Mike in the aspect of his passions. Like when he gets obsessed with something or starts to like something,
Oh my god,
you can't take his eyes off of it. That was exactly how Mike was. And
laser focused on stuff. Yeah, that was Mike.
Laser focused, and just wants to embody whatever that thing is. I mean, whether it's cars or right now it's Thanos, so he wants to be Thanos. Everything is Thanos. And what I was telling you is he's super funny. Like we were playing Uno the other night, and his math skills were, I'm not even kidding, like he tallied up his total faster than I did, and I'm like ready to use my fingers. And so he does have like that, statistical analytical processing, which I don't have it, so it doesn't come from me. But he'll ask me, he'll be like, Mommy, what's your favorite fruit? I'm like, I don't know, apple. And he'll be like, okay, do you like apple or oranges better? I'm like, well, apple. I said, favorites. And he's like, if you had to rank an apple, a banana, and an orange in first, second, and third, what would it be? And like he will do that about, animals, and he's constantly asking questions. Well, do you like this one more or do you like that one more? And I'm like, my brain does not work like this. Like, this is not I don't rank things in order of favorites, And so it's funny to me to see him do that when he didn't get to know that that's what his dad did. If it came, he was 12 years old, I would be thinking like, oh, he watched his dad rank. And, we definitely talk about him. He knows football, was dad's thing. He very much knows a lot. He knows everything. We talk about him constantly. But facial expressions, his little reasoning mind. And the thing I don't say hate, because I love everything about him.
Watch it.
But the thing that will drive me crazy is, much like Mike has the ability to completely tune you out when you were talking, Jonathan also has that characteristic. So he definitely has the ability to hear everything you're saying. Like he actually does hear everything you're saying. He's just in his own little world. Like, no, I'm not, I don't need to look at you or acknowledge you,
That's so funny because I do that. I like find myself doing that. Like I hear it and I'm like concentrated because I'm like reading a text or I'm like responding to something. And I, in my head, I'm hearing what my girlfriend's saying to me and I'm not responding. She's like, you didn't respond to me. And I'm like, I didn't. I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, I hear you. And I'm like, I know that I'm like what I'm going to say to you, but I'm like hyper focused on what I'm doing. Yeah. So I do that too. So I just, that cracks me up because I'm like, I so get yelled. I'm like, she's like, can you respond to me? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I like absolutely meant to. I heard you. It was internal and I just never said it. And so
my wife does the exact same thing where we having a conversation. She's like, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? She's like, I just told you. And I'm like, no, you didn't. She's like, no, I seriously did. And she'll say it in her head and stuff. That's one of the lovely things about ADD.
Seems like you have a future Fantasy Pros expert ranker on your hands here. That's
definitely possible. Definitely possible.
I am not good at spreadsheets at all, that kind of stuff. I do. JT probably watches more college film and stuff like that. We do that stuff. We do our college stuff together, C2C, things like that. We have our, on this Dynasty Evaluation show, we have our college stuff, but neither of us know how to use like spreadsheets. So everything we do is like, we have to watch like hours and hours and hours of like college and NFL films because we both coached and played and, that kind of stuff. And it's, I don't know. I hope that JT, I hope that Dunk is, ends up finding a balance. Like some people some people struggle like finding a balance in fantasy football and like fun and stuff like that. Whatever he does, I'm super happy. I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. But Tabby, if you were to start Tabby Talks again, like where can everybody find you at? Where can everybody like find all your stuff, or where could they subscribe to Tabby Talks?
So I do still have an active channel from former videos. They're all still up there. Tabby Talks is on YouTube. I have my Tabby Talks on Instagram as well, but I'm on Facebook, just Tabby Tags. But so yeah, Tabby Talks. I think
I would have tagged you, but I would have tagged you in a lot of stuff, but I wanted it to be a surprise, so I didn't want to give out the I don't want nobody to know. I didn't want DBro to know.
I almost had a heart attack when you popped in this room. I was like, holy shit, this is happening.
I know. I was so excited for you. I'm like, dang it, I came too soon. I didn't think you'd see me. But no, it's great to be here. This is so fun, and I appreciate the invite, seriously. And Derek, I'm super happy for you, and the stuff you're doing with the primer. That is no easy task, and I know you're doing it justice. And he's proud. He's proud of everything Fantasy Pros has done. He's proud of John. JT, I think he knew you. I'm sorry. I don't know that for sure, but I know everything you're doing.
I met him we were in my very first Scott Fishbowl league. That very one I was in with him, and then when we did the live draft is where I met John. So I didn't know him personally. I met him, I knew him through online, but then he was in my very first Scott Fishbowl draft. I was in his group, and then when we did the live in Chicago is how I met John, and then that got me all involved in this fantasy football craze. I had always done fantasy, but I had been a journalist way back before I started restaurants and stuff. That's how I kind of got my start and went to school was doing sports journalism. So I kind of got intertwined with all these guys, and I live just south of everybody. I live in just outside of Champaign, Illinois, in Mahomet. So I'm like about 2 hours south of all the Chicago guys. So John's kind of brought me into the group, and like I said, I knew him from that things. I feel like I know him way better now just from everybody talking about him and the stories and all that.
Yeah, it's unfortunately I brought JT in the group. He's in our home leagues now. We gotta bring him everywhere. But yeah, it was I'm just kidding. JT's awesome. But it's super cool meeting all these people in person. But DBro, it's been an hour, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I had a whole show sheet made up of all this draft stuff. We're gonna have to reschedule
this
that.
Is better than talking ball.
This is 100% like way better than talking any fantasy football stuff. This meant way more to me than any of my shows before to kind of talk about the stuff. So every once in a while, I feel like the breaks like these in the fantasy football space are the kind of what makes me happy. Just you relating to like other human beings and talking about life and stuff like that. So we'll have to reschedule and actually talk fantasy football sometime. But this was way more important than talking about any kind of draft stuff or stuff like that. So I really appreciate it. And, you can find DBro on Fantasy Pros. He's got most people you got like 100,000 followers on X and InstaFace and all that other stuff like that. And I'm not a social media person. I try to be, but I don't even know how to use like Instagram. I don't know how to post stuff on like TikTok yet. I'm terrible with that stuff, but I'm getting there. I just started this stuff about a year and a half ago, trying to, so some point in time I'll get, I'll actually put what's in my head, like on paper somewhere, be able to like do it, but it is what it is. But Tabby, I'm super happy that you're starting to show up again. Your passion. It's nice for everybody to have like a release event, and then Jonathan's get a little bit older. It's a little bit more hands off. You can kind of live your dream again, like I'm doing now, like doing this fantasy football stuff, which was always my dream. I'm starting to do it again, but it's cool to see you're going to do Tabby Talks and enjoy life and all that kind of stuff. And, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm already subscribed. So, I'll see everything that comes on, but JT,
John,
where can everybody find you?
Can I share one thing before we get up out of here? First of all, I want to say thanks, Tabby, for stopping by and just having the chat. And for the kind words. I'll never be able to tell the two of you thank you enough I still remember tuning into y'all's shows way back whenever y'all had your own show, hopping in comments and being on the other side of all this and asking questions and having you and Mike answer questions that I'd ask. Much less there's so many things that came out after Tags' passing about like stories, and one of them that still hits me to this day was that there were multiple avenues of places that I wrote or that I applied for, And I never knew how integral Mike was on the back end of like people, because all this, like, this is all just a community. Like everybody talks to everybody, everybody knows everybody in a lot of different walks, a lot of different websites and stuff like that. So it's you know, it's a network of people. And there were so many different times that I was never aware of where places that either I would apply to or wrote for or what have you, where they reached out or Mike would reach out on my behalf that I never knew about until after the fact, that helped pave the way for a lot of the things that I did and now I do. And I never got the chance to say thank you about that.
Oh, well.
That's awesome.
On behalf of him, you're welcome. And I know he's saying it too. And I'm sure it seriously just brought him just as much pleasure as it did to do any of that. Like he loved doing that. And I thank you for sharing that with me. And I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to be here.
I had to come over and shave and shovel mulch in your backyard for hours to get Mike to do rankings for me. This is awesome.
He did. He did. He totally did.
Yeah. It's sweating by 90-degree weather. Mike was like, get over here and shovel mulch. And I'll
Man was out there planting flowers.
So, but you guys, thanks for coming on today. This show meant a lot to me for you guys to be part of my life. You know, that kind of, you know, it's part of my show. And, you know, this is it rolled out a lot better than I thought it was going to be, a kind of an impromptu show, not knowing if it was going to be 5 minutes or an hour. And it went an hour without any kind of like, you know, whatever. It went a lot better than I thought. And I really appreciate you guys getting together. And hopefully, you know, you guys can intermingle, like, you know, now that, you know, Tabby, you're kind of getting back in the virtual universe, you know, that kind of stuff. Hopefully you can make this more appearances. Your face is too beautiful to not be on camera. So it's, we'll get you back on again, but awesome seeing you again. Well, I can't wait to see you in person and cheer some beers with, you know, me and Kelly and, you know, and you. So I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tuning in Dynasty Evaluation Show, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good day. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you later.